Okay. So, in addition to the the Endangered Species Act, there are other Wildlife Protection Act, including which we're going to talk about for a minute. Um, there is the Marine Mammal Protection Act. I'm going to see if this video is still available, and I'll add it to the module so you can watch it after this little section. Just a little funny Seinfeld thing on marine biologists. So the Marine Mammal Protection Act, look, it predates the ESA, which it's about the marine ecosystem, right? So the mammals in the marine system. So think polar bears, manatees, sea otters, pinnipeds, whales, dolphins, porpoises. So mammals that live in a marine environment like ocean, right? Um, it's enforced by Department of Commerce and the Department of Interior, and there is a taking ban on marine mammals and their byproducts. Okay, taking and importing. Okay, if you need a waiver for the Marine Mammal Protection Act, you go through the state for that. So a marine mammal include things like, and this is kind of like a little matching column question in the quiz, but like polar bears, manatees, sea otters. So those you kind of think of as like traditional mammals, right? Then you have your pinnipeds, like walruses, sea lions, seals, and then our cetaceans, which are our whales, right? So these kind of can't live underwater. They still have like land areas where they sleep and things, but these are the ones that kind of are in the water all the time unless they're just coming out. They jump out to get air, the whales, dolphins, and the porpoises, which are called cetaceans. Okay, so taking, same kind of rules. You can't harass, hunt, capture, kill, or try to do so, or sell their byproducts like polar bear rug or skin or organ or like walrus tusks or anything like that. So that's from 1972. Now there is, I don't know if it's this, there is maybe it's the next slide. In 1992, it was amended with this International Dolphin Conservation Act. So they wanted to protect the dolphins in the tuna nets. So they would, dolphins would be killed when the tuna's in the tuna nets. So now, it's unlawful in our country to sell tuna, which we say is not dolphin safe. That was a big thing when I was a kid. I stopped eating tuna because they were killing dolphins. I still don't eat tuna really for that reason, or just because I stopped eating tuna back like in the 70s. More amendments. There stranding help. This again in 1992. So helping animals that are, beached or stranded. I don't know if you watched that one movie where they were trying to get the whales were stranded, like iced in, and they were in Alaska, and they were trying to get all the whales out to the main ocean. It's a pretty good movie. I can't remember the name of it, but what's his name? John Krasinski was in it. And then so they monitor these strandings, and it's kind of a data collection program. And the Marine Mammal Protection Act has waivers for some of the native populations, the Indians, Inuit, and Eskimos, who rely on the fishing or the byproducts of the marine mammals for their survival. So that's Marine Mammal Protection Act. Now here's another little video, or I'll add that to the supplemental materials so you don't have to go back into the PowerPoint. For eagles, I love this thing. In Iowa, they have this alive cam of the eagles, and it's really fun now in the springtime to watch it because there's babies, so you see what's going on with these bald eagles. Just fun. But there is a specific Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act, which, oh, I wish I had that. I don't know why I don't have the date for it, but it predates the ESA actually. Um, and, again, prohibits taking of anything related to the bald eagle, including things like feathers, nests, or eggs. And I guess if you have a permit, you might participate in it taking, right? So here's things: take, possess, sell, transport, export, whatever. But taking still has that broad definition. And again, I think this was. Why can't I remember what it was? I think it was in this. Oh, hey, wait! I'm going to pause this and figure it out. Okay, it was 1940. See, and what's the justification for that? Well, I mean, this is the symbol of our country, right? They were thinking about that pretty early on. We can't have our eagle no longer alive in the United States when it is our country symbol. So there's this case from 19, and this is just a district court case. So, again, not precedent, not a big deal. But it talks about, again, the conflict between private landowners and the Endangered Species Act. So this isn't specifically about the Eagle Protection Act, but they talk about it. Okay, so there's a property owner, right, who wanted to develop this property, but there was an active eagle's nest on the property. And, the bald eagle population had done really well, and the Fish and Wildlife Service was considering delisting the bald eagle. And the proposed rule was put on the in the Federal Register back in 1987. So this is a lot later than that. So it's like 2005, 2006. So the property owner's like, I need to know whether or not you're going to delist bald eagles so I can develop this land, because I don't want to be subject to criminal penalties for taking or disturbing the habitat of this bald eagle. So they were just like, I just want you to make a determination. So the Fish and Wildlife Service, they argued that, even if we got rid of the listing, if it was delisted, you still have the Eagle Protection Act, the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act. Plaintiff thought that the standards for taking were less under the Eagle Protection Act. The court held like, no, it's the same standard, but Fish and Wildlife Service still had to do something and make a decision by February 6th of 2007, which they still didn't do until June of 2007. And it was delisted in June. But again, the bald eagle is still protected under the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act and the Migratory Bird Act, or Treaties Act, which we're going to talk about right now. Okay, so the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, MBTA, look at how old that is, 1918. Okay, so it was originally just between US, us, and Great Britain, but now it's also Mexico, Russia, Japan. So it's unlawful without some sort of waiver or permit to pursue, hunt, take, capture, kill, or sell birds that are designated as migratory birds under the act. Okay, so even if you have like a dead bird, right, a stuffed bird, that still applies. All bird parts are included: feathers, eggs, nests. There are about 800 species currently on the list. And there are permits allowed for things like falconry, propagation, right? You're trying to breed them, scientific use, education use, and then maybe if there's too many of them, depredation, right? If they're and they're killing and they're affecting the local ecosystem, maybe you can get a permit. So here's an example. If there's a bunch of geese near an airport, you might kill them if they pose a danger to the aircraft. So again, that back in the day, in that part time, feathers were valuable for people would adorn themselves with feathers in their hats and their stoles and all sorts of things. So there was a big trade. And this was found to be a constitutional treaty in 1920 by the U.S. Supreme Court. So here's a list of protected birds, but things like, these are migratory birds, right? Birds that kind of move throughout, to different countries and things like that, and up and down depending on the climate. So hummingbirds, I love my hummingbirds. I do my hummingbird feeders every year. Again, we're in the springtime. I got to put my hummingbird feeders out in the next month or so. And everyone's least favorite migratory bird, which is protected, the Canadian goose. So I don't even, it's a little bit annoying because they are not at all endangered. There's a gazillion of them. 1988, we passed the African Elephant Conservation Act. Obviously, elephants are not native to our part of the world, but it does support conservation programs in African countries, prohibits ivory trade. And I think there's also, there might be something in here too about elephants in captivity. But just another example of a Wildlife Protection Act. All right, so let's. Am I pausing here? Yeah, I think I'm pausing here. Okay, so let's pause here. And you can watch those other videos that we were talking about that I'm going to post in the module, and then we'll go finish off with FIFRA for the remainder of the class.